All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome. Welcome as people still file in. Uh, Welcome to the Black Male Librarian Joy program and panel discussion. My name is Carlos Grooms. I'm the Student Success Librarian at Elon University in Elon, North Carolina, and also a co-director of REMCO, or formerly known as the Roundtable on Ethnic and Minority Concerns, a section of the North Carolina Library Association. Our section is chaired by Brittany Champion. She is here with us this morning, helping out with the chat and the questions that come in, and also helping me co-moderate this conversation this morning. My colleague and friend, Harvey Long from North Carolina A&T State University. You want to say something real quick?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Carlos. Good morning, good top of the morning, wherever you're joining us from. Good afternoon, even. Thanks for the invitation to serve as a guest facilitator, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. Hey, Aggie, right, I know that's right.
All right, all right. So, all right, today we're going to have a conversation with Black male librarians from across the country as we explore the concept and topic of Black male librarian joy. We'll be representing different library types and services, and we'll talk a little bit about the term Black male librarian joy and how it was derived from the New York Times bestseller, Black Boy Joy, 17 Stories Celebrating Black Boyhood. So Black Boy Joy was a book published in August 2001. It's 17 stories told in poems and comic book forms, and it's composed of 17 different Black male or non-binary authors that came together in the midst of the pandemic as a response to the racial oppression, the George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery incidents that occurred. So this was their response to all the negative press that was released during this time. So our panel of Black male librarians will help us unpack what it means to be Black men in librarianship and discuss ways we can assist and support one another. So Brittany, in the chat, please drop the link to the program where you can get more depth to who these panelists are. We don't have a bunch of time, so what we're going to do a quick panel introduction to let you know who's speaking and where our speakers are from. So Mr. Long.
Certainly. So we have joining us today some movers and shakers in the Black male librarian world. So I'll start with Dr. Lopez G. Matthews, who's the State Archivist and Public Records Administrator for the District of Columbia, DC. We also have Mr. John Light Jr., who's the Youth Librarian at Islands Librarian in the Live Oak Public Library System in Savannah, Georgia. And we have Christopher Fleming, also known as the People's Librarian, who's a branch manager in the Richland Library System in Columbia, South Carolina. We have Mr. Richard E. Ashby, who's the director of the Storrock Public Library in McKees Rock, Pennsylvania. And last but certainly not least, we have Billy Allen, who's the branch manager of the Whitney Library in Las Vegas, Nevada. So Carlos, would you like to get us started with the first question?
Absolutely. Good morning, panel. How y'all doing today?
That's beautiful.
Fantastic. Good.
Awesome. It's good to see y'all this morning. We got a little late start, but we own it, and we about to dive a little bit into your background. So our first question is, tell us quickly a little bit about yourself and how you got into librarianship. And I'm gonna just go from the top. We'll start with Christopher, People's Librarian.
Yeah, man. My name is Christopher Fleming. I'm like they said, the branch manager here at Lower Richland Library in Columbia, South Carolina. I got into librarianship basically because I'm a book nerd. I've always surrounded myself around books before I worked at a library. I worked at a bookstore called Second and Charles and things like that. And I originally had my undergrad in business, but I took it because, my mom always said business will always be there, but it wasn't necessarily where my heart was. Mm-hmm. So once I started getting around books and around literacy and things like that, and then the door opened just a little bit for me to apply for a position at the Richland Library, I jumped right on it. And as they say, the rest is history.
That's awesome. Sorry about that. Mr. Richard Ashby, and please correct us and let us know what library you are with, sir. And same question for you. Tell us a little bit about you and how you got into librarianship.
Good morning, everybody. I'm now at the Sharon Hill Public Library. I'm the director here at the Sharon Hill Public Library, and right outside of Philadelphia. And I'm the president and co-founder of the Pennsylvania Black Librarians Caucus and the past president of the American Library Association Black Caucus. Now, I got into library science very non-traditional way. At a young age, my mom told me I would be a librarian, and I thought that was absolutely ludicrous because I hated books. But she saw something in me at 15 that said I would be a librarian. And I started out as a security guard on Long Island as a librarian. I mean, as a security guard in a library. And I worked there as a security guard for about 2 years. And then the director gave me a promotion, promoted me to the custodian, if that's a promotion. And from the custodian, he put me in as a children's librarian aide. And then in the back of the library for acquisitions, and then I worked the front desk. Then he set me at the reference desk, and he set me at in the children's and the teens area. And when he retired, I went to there were no Black people in the library working. The director was a Black man, Mr. Cherry. And when he retired, he said, "Son, you're in trouble. The library is going to be run by white folks who don't really care about the community." And real quick, there was a fight in the library. A young lady and a young man was in a fight. And the word Negro was in the book. And I said, they were fighting over the word Negro. And I said, I was a Negro. And the librarians didn't like that I said that. And they put me off the floor. And the community heard about what happened. The community came together, got some money together, and helped me start my career to go to Queens College as a librarian.
Wow. That's amazing.
Went from security guard to director of a library.
Right. And I think that'll be a theme that everyone will see today, that a lot of us got into librarianship in a non-traditional type of way. Mm-hmm. So let's go with Mr. John. Same question for you.
Yes, I'm John Light Jr. or Mr. John. I'm down here at Bull Street Library now in Savannah, Georgia. And I've, ever since I started going in my undergrad at Old Dominion University, I was always around the library. My work study was at the library. So the first 2 years there, I worked at the library in the serials department. When I wanted to try to get a real job, if you will, down in Hampton Roads, I went ahead and applied in Virginia Beach Central Library, started working in circulation. I wanted to try to create a career. Some of the admins used to come down and say, "John, you should go and get your master's and get, library, get your degree." But I didn't do all that well in undergrad. I got out of there barely. And so I was intimidated about trying to, take the GRE and all the stuff that you would need to do to get there. So I kind of left the library for a little bit. I ended up in like insurance. And then one day, as I was, in insurance, me and the family, we went to the library, and I always say, like, it was like this aura came down on me. It was like, this is where you're supposed to be. And I was like, oh man, I got to get back here. So like, once I went into that library that day, I started working towards getting into a library. And the next year I was able to get into a library in Woodbridge, Virginia, Potomac Community Library in the Youth Services Department. It was the best decision I ever made. And so a lot of time had passed, and so GREs wasn't as important anymore. Syracuse said you didn't even need it if you had a lot of work experience. I was like, thank you, Lord. And so went to Syracuse, got my degree in 2019, December 2019, and I am now a librarian today. So like that was my journey to librarianship.
Absolutely. Those standardized tests in the past have blocked a lot of people from being able to get over that hump and the barrier and break into something different, a place their families have never been before. So I'm glad you brought that up. I appreciate that. Let's see, Mr. Billy Allen, same question.
I'm the Billy Allen. I am the branch manager for Whitney Library for the Las Vegas Clark County Library District. Been a librarian for almost 7 years. How I got into librarianship, honestly, I flunked out of college at 18 at Winston State. My dad was like, look, you ain't gonna be hanging around the house. You're gonna take your ass into the military. So I enlisted into the United States Air Force as a medic. Get out, I'm 23, 24, don't know what I want to do with myself. So I ended up going back to school at 25 and following my mom's footsteps and becoming a nurse. Halfway through my undergrad at Lincoln University of Missouri, one of my good friends that's a librarian, Bradley Kirkendall, was like, hey man, you still gonna do this nursing thing? I'm like, yeah. I said, what you about to do? He said, man, I'm about to be a librarian. And the same question that I asked him is what I get asked all the time. I said, what the hell do a librarian do? And when he introduced me to the field of librarianship and introduced us to our mentor, Dr. Jerome Alford, it changed my life. So Dr. Jerome Alford created an internship in St. Louis at WashU that had me, Bradley Kirkendall, and Gerard Moore. We was the first of this kind to get into library science, where we got introduced to other mentors, Makiba Foster and Kelvin Watson. When that opened my eyes and I felt like I can do this, I can see people that look like me, and I didn't know how big the field of librarianship is. I didn't even know you had to get an MLS, a master's degree. So I said, I'm gonna do this. So ended up getting my bachelor's degree at 29, and then I moved back home to North Carolina to go to North Carolina Central University to get my MLS. You just talked about the standardized test. I didn't take the GRE. I said, look, I'm gonna bet on myself. I went to the admin's office, introduced myself to Dean Owens, and was like, look, I have a passion to get into the field. These are my mentors. And I got in 2014, got my MLS in 2016. My first youth services job, my first job was a youth services librarian, but that wasn't my background in library school. It was academic. So they said, for the interview, you got to do a story time. And I was like, what is a story time? So I read Maurice Sendek's What the Wild Things Are, and pretty much the rest is history. Like, I love doing story time. I love impacting the community. So I went from a youth services librarian to a librarian one, to assistant branch manager, to a youth services supervisor, now a branch manager in less than 7 years. And it's just been the best thing that ever happened to me to serve my community.
That's a great story. So you say you flunked out of Winston-Salem State?
I sure did, trying to chase all the girls.
Well, hey, Billy, it's hard to be a Ram. I'm just gonna put that out there.
We got that Eagle pride going on.
It's hard to be a Ram. So we got a couple of Rams in here, a couple of Eagles in here. So HBCUs are definitely representing.
Yeah.
So last but not least, Dr. Lopez Matthews Jr., please, same question.
My journey isn't quite as exciting. I started at Coppin State University in Baltimore, a small HBCU in Baltimore. I went there to study computer science, realized very quickly that I'm not good at math, so I can't do computer science. So I said, what else do I like to do? Because I've always been a fan of doing what I like to do. And so I said, well, I like history. So I became a history major. And then I did an internship under Dr. Roger Davidson, who took us to the National Archives to look at the Civil War pension files for Black soldiers. And I was amazed that I could hold a document that was over 100 years old. I had never realized that you could actually do that. And so I said, wow, this is amazing. This is what I want to do. I want other people to experience this as well. And so I said, well, I want to work in archives, libraries. So that's what I decided I wanted to do. And then I met Elizabeth Clark Lewis at Howard University. And she said, well, you can come to Howard, get a degree in public history. I said, oh, okay, cool. So I've always been a fan of listening to what people, if it makes sense to me, I'll listen and I'll do it. So she said to come to Howard. So I went to Howard, got my master's in public history and archival administration, got my PhD in US history because I wanted to teach as well. And while at Howard, I worked at Moreland Spingarn Research Center, which is the largest repository of materials on Blacks in the world. And it just amazed me what you could do with records. And so I worked there, had a great experience, went to the National Archives for a brief period as an archives technician, really loved working with those records. Then came back to Howard as an archivist. Then I took over their digital production center, digitizing their records. So I built their digitization program, which was an awesome experience because they have just an amazing collection. And just this year, I was appointed by the mayor, the first state archivist and public records administrator for Washington, D.C. And I have to say that I am the only Black state archivist in the country. And that's an asterisk because the Secretary of State for Illinois is technically their state archivist and he's Black, but he is not the director of their state archive. And so I am the only Black who is the director of these state archives. So, I take great pride in that. There aren't many of us in this field, period. So, I take great pride in being able to have moved up in this field.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Awesome, Lopez.
Yeah, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing story. And it's really hard to believe that we still in 2022 have the first African American and whatever else comes behind that. But that's where we are, and we're going to continue to meet those expectations. All right.
So I would like to thank you all for sharing your journey to librarianship, and you all are truly an inspiration. But in keeping with this panel's theme, what does Black male librarian joy mean to you? I think I'm going to start with Mr. Billy on this one.
Black male librarian joy, it just means that, first of all, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, becoming a librarian. I got a slogan that Black male librarians, we're leaders of the new cool. It's important, I feel like, for us to be representatives of our community, for not even just kids, just people, to see people that look like them to get into this realm. Being able to impact your community every day. I mean, how many professions really can say they do that? When you could practice empathy, you could really provide information and resources, really serve the community and what they want, not what you want. It's a very self-gratifying career, and it's endless opportunities to encourage Black men to get in this field and do something other than being an athlete or a rapper. You could do something dope and really help people out and be yourself. And it's different lanes you can go into, as you heard from all the gentlemen speaking before. So, Black male librarian joy is just impacting our community and raising future leaders.
That's real. So impacting our communities in various forms of representation. Thank you. Thank you. That's so important. That's critical. How about Dr. Matthews?
You know what? That almost the same as what Billy said. I love protecting the records. I love making the records available. I love having people learn about Black history. I just love sharing this experience because I think it's extremely important that people know it and understand it and know the true history, not stuff that people just make up off the top of their heads. So that's what I like. And then I also love the mentoring aspect of it as well, because I always make a point of bringing in students so that they can learn this work too, learn about this history, learn that it is a viable field and a viable option for them. I always bring in at least 5 or 6 students to work with me every year. I'm bringing that here to the DC archives. I'm building an internship program now so that we can bring in interns and have them be paid interns. I'm a fan of paying people for their work. So not, they call unpaid interns, those are volunteers. So I would like to have interns who are actually paid to do the work because, that is a barrier to this field. It's a big barrier to this field that you don't get the experience because you can't afford to do an unpaid internship. And so that's why I always insist on having paid internships. So, but that's what I've dedicated my work to do, trying to help young people, bring them into the field. So that's what brings me joy, working with the records and working with young people and getting them excited. And I have a story, and I'll be brief because I know I talk too much. I have a student right now who is not interested in being a librarian. He's a business student, but now he is writing an article to go somewhere about Marion Barry because he's digitizing his speeches and he's finding it so fascinating and interesting learning about who he was and what he's done. And so be interesting to see once he gets to the end of the 80s, what he thinks about his experience. But I just love watching that and love watching him learn what we do. And so that's really what it's about to me.
That's amazing. It's amazing. So impacting our communities, culture keepers, inspiring the next generation of librarians, public historians, archivists. What about Mr. Ashby? What does Black male librarian joy mean to you?
Oh, so the word joy says it all. I'm not happy because happiness depends on what's happening now. Joy comes from within. So all the things that the other brothers have mentioned is what it means to me. In addition to that, I think it's just, I didn't become a librarian until I was age 55 when I went back to school to get my degree. And so I have a lot of life experiences. And so the joy to me is to be able to put that key in the door every morning and know that when the public start coming in, I have an impact on my community. I have an impact on the young boys and young girls that come into the library. They see Mr. Ritchie and they're like, what make you want to be a librarian? The love of my people make me want to be a librarian. To have an impact on the community makes me want to be a librarian. I've had the opportunity to go to big libraries, and God bless all the brothers that are in big libraries because that's what they're supposed to be. But I go to small libraries where I can put boots on the ground. I can walk to work in the morning. I can walk up and down the street and I can see the kids going to the school and talk about the books and programs that we want to be in the library. It's just community engagement is really what brings me joy. Seeing the look on people's face when they walk in the library and they say, do you have a particular book? And the staff, we're not allowed to say no. No is not in the librarianship to me. It's I'll find it, I'll get it, let me look it up. And so when someone walk in this library or any library that I work at and they say, do we have a such and such book? We'll get it. And we immediately pull out that card, we go to Amazon, that book's here the next day. That's joy for somebody to walk into this place. We had a mixed couple walk into the library last week and I've dealt with them, and then they wrote a letter back to the borough and to the mayor saying that they had never been treated so well in the library. This is a very, very red state, Pennsylvania. And I like to put that black on that red when I open up my library. So that's me, just joy. Just being able to open that door and knowing that I'm going to have an impact on somebody's life today. And real quickly, I tell my staff all the time, this is a library, not a hospital. You can't lose lives, but you can destroy lives.
The bar.
Sometimes when someone homeless comes in, well, they don't work here anymore. When someone homeless would come in the library, you know how some people act when someone homeless or drugs come in the library? I was homeless. My staff didn't know that. And I said, wait a minute. You treat my brother like that. You didn't know I was homeless. So I bring these life experiences in. A library saved my life. And so that's my joy, just being able to wake up every morning and put that key into this door as the director and make things happen, make magic happen.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. And I just want to lift up the consistent theme that I'm hearing, and that's the ability to impact our communities, to have a positive impact, not to destroy lives as Mr. Ashby just said, but to positively impact lives in our communities. And that's consistent with the tradition of Black male librarianship, from Mr. Thomas Fountain Blue to librarians here today on this panel. So just staying in that tradition, that's so rich. Mr. John.
Yes. For me, the Black male librarian joy means that I'm free to be who I am, to be the person that I am, and to be seen as a human, and to be in the spaces that I'm in. When I first got back into the library, my wife had to tell me, she was like, you know, a lot of these kids don't see you, like they've never seen somebody like you before. And I was like, I was like, okay, like, yeah, you're right. And it turned for me, it changed things. I had a class in yesterday, and the kids are looking and they're asking me, why do you want to be a librarian? And I'm talking, I love to help people, I love to serve, I love to help you. And I don't know if this happens with other librarians or some of the other brothers, but like when the kids come, it's almost like they gotta touch you to make sure you're real. Like, is he real? Like a lot of time I don't ask for anything. They come over like, hey, like, thank you, Mr. John, and then they go on their way. But that representation is big. I know I didn't see anybody that looked like me growing up in the library, and it never dawned on me I could be a librarian until I kind of got close to it. And even then it still didn't really connect. It took a while for it to connect. But I love to help people. I love to empower people to be the best that they can be, the best person that they can be. That's why I do it. That's for youth, that's for adults, that's for whoever walks through the door. I love being here. And that's what I've heard from Billy and everybody else is that love of service, the love of helping. That's what I love to do.
Thank you. And that representation is such a complicated concept, but it matters. It's very important. So thank you for sharing that. Last but certainly not least, the people's librarian.
Yes. Well, the joy for me is realizing and understanding that I come from a line of intellectual Black men. My father, may he rest in peace, was one. My grandfather, who's still alive and kicking. He's 90 years old, but he's sharp enough to cut everybody up on this panel right here with his divine intellect. And one thing that my father, he had wrote me a letter. It was on the back of my one of my photos when I was in 6th grade that I actually found after he passed. He said, thank you for the last hug, and be someone who makes me proud and study. And those are the things that I ended up doing. Aside of being a librarian, I'm also a philosopher. When my father passed, the first thing that I did was delve into books, a bunch of spiritual books, to try to understand the anguish and the pain and things that I was feeling. There's probably not a religion out there or a spiritual path out there that I haven't studied, just to try to figure out the feelings that I was dealing with after my father's passing. But it was due to those seeds that he planted in me when I was a child, of saying, read everybody. Everybody has a voice. Listen to everybody's perspective on things, to see where you can find, if it's even possible to find truth with a capital T. Everybody has a piece of the truth, lowercase t. So, that created my life as a philosopher, to the point that I wrote a life philosophy when I was 16 years old. I wrote my first book probably around 17 years old, right before I became a freshman in college. And then, the joy of it is being happy in the vocation of the mind and being an image for those who might feel a similar way. One of the greatest things is I met a young sister when I was at the North Main Library. She had a stack of books about as tall as she was, just a tall stack of books. And I said, sister, what's going on here? She was like, well, actually I met a young brother and a young sister who both told me that they love philosophy. And then they told me what, like, man, I study Egyptian philosophy, Greek philosophy, and I'm sitting here like, right here, the feels, the heart, that just did my heart well. And just to give an image, not only to the community, but primarily my children. I have a 2-year-old son, and I have a 1-month-old daughter. And before any celebrities or influencers or anybody in society that they say are destroying our children, I'm gonna be their first image of manhood. I'm gonna be their first image of what it means to treat a woman or treat their mother and things like that. So I bring that in my character of how I was raised, both inside of my house and into the libraries and things like that, make sure everybody's treated with love and respect. And when I go out and do story times, I just did one at Gadsden Elementary, and one of the most beautiful things, they wrote me a letter on the back of our picture that we took together, and it said, thank you for reading to us. And I was like, man, it's just a simple sentiment, but these children said, thank you for reading to us. And, that's a memory that's going to be made. That's a memory that they're going to have going to the libraries. Remember that this black man read a book to them and things like that, man. So just to see that joy that my joy brings to other people, specifically children, man, I couldn't trade it for the world, man.
That's profound, and I think that's a nice transition to the next question. Carlos, would you?
Yes,
that one?
Absolutely. I mean, Brother Christopher, that, you telling that story reminds me of it, it makes me emotional because when I was cutting up as a kid, my dad would say, I think I was in the 9th grade, I got suspended from high school. And he say, everybody is getting up this morning, you gonna get up too. And I'm like, well, Daddy, where I'm going? I'm suspended. I thought I was going to enjoy my day at home, play the PlayStation. You know what I'm saying? And he said, you going to the library today. And I'm like, what in the world? And sent me down to the library, public library, Winston-Salem downtown. And told the librarians at the front desk, my son going to be here all day. Here's his lunch money. These are the things I want him to do. And he better have it done by the time I get back. But he looked at it as a form of punishment. But when he got back that day, I was so excited about, going into archives, going into microfilm, like that was, a coming alive day in the library for me. So, the impact as Black men, as fathers, it is. Whew, let me be quiet. Yes, sir. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for that. This next question. What unique approach do you bring to librarianship? And I want to start with Mr. John.
Oh man, I would say that I bring my joy. I bring my joy into the space. And like Richard was saying is not happy, is joy. And I think that rubs off on the people that are around me. It rubs off on the patrons in the community that comes in, because I get joy from helping them and from serving them. But also, I would say what I bring is that, again, I guess going back to that representation thing, like where I operate, it's all I am like, you're not supposed to be here. So like I'm serving lots of white families all the time. When I see my Black families or my Black children when they come in from school visits, but often I'm in the youth area you know, and these, you know, white moms and parents are coming in with their children and like who is this? You know, but I'm being seen, and I'm showing them that, you know, I may not be what you expected when you got here, but after you leave, I'm going to be what you want, and I'm going to be what you need. Like you may leave here and be like, when you come back the next time, it's going to be like, well, where's Mr. John? Like, where is Mr. John here? And that's usually how it is. And so that's my thing. That's my thing. I just want to be seen as a valuable person in this space by the community. And I go about and I carry myself as that's how I'm going to be seen. And that's the approach that I bring.
Absolutely. And being an example, being visible, especially in our public libraries. There's so many different types of patrons and customers that come up that need you for so many different types of things. So that's awesome. Dr. Matthews, same question. What's your unique approaches that you bring to librarianship?
I think the unique approach that I bring to librarianship is my insistence on authenticity and being true to the records. Because I will say, and I've thankfully been in spaces where I've been able to do that, I do not fake it. I am very honest in what I think. I'm very honest in what I think about the projects that we do. And I just like to move in a, you know, I like to maintain truth, in fact. And that's where I stand. And that's what I think I bring. And you may not think that is unique, but I have come to learn that is a very unique trait. You know, sometimes librarians think of themselves as you know, we're this great field of people, and it is not. It is often not a safe space for a lot of people of color and a lot of minorities. And so we have had to compromise ourselves to fit the spaces. And thankfully, I have not had to do that. And I've tried to not do that in my career. So I think that is what I bring, not to toot my own horn or anything like that.
Yeah.
No, we asked you to.
I tried to.
Okay.
That's powerful. That is so powerful. Because you know, I'm no spring chicken. I've had jobs where being yourself, will get you fired. Let me be honest. Being yourself will get you fired.
Run out of town.
Absolutely. And this is a unique time. That's why I appreciate the young generation for really fighting to be themselves, for themselves to be visible in these workspaces. So yeah, and then you also mentioned maintaining the truth, because dealing with history, especially history in the United States, we have to unearth so much of our history. We have to get down to what was truthful, what was factual. And that's what I love about librarianship, because I was taught to teach people a proper way, a correct way to engage information. So I appreciate that. Great point. The people's librarian, what unique approaches do you bring to librarianship?
Well, one of my things is I like to bring critical thinking and unarmed conversations straight to the forefront, because I believe that right now we're living in a situation where a lot of people are talking at each other, but they're not talking to one another. So if you disagree with somebody, you're automatically a phobic or ist of some sort, or something, you know, some things like that. And I am vehemently opposed to that. So like one of the first things that I did when I became the manager at my branch was I did a blind date with a book. Now, normally with a blind date with a book, they cover the book and they give you a synopsis of the book. I didn't put a synopsis on the book. I just covered the book and called it Blind Date with the Book, Polarizing Authors. So you might get Barack Obama, you might get Candace Owens, you might get Glenn Beck, you might get Jawanza Kunjufu, you might get Malcolm X, you might get Thomas Sowell, whatever the case may be, because I want people to be courageous enough to challenge their own presuppositions and biases and come up if they're confronted with new information that they're willing to change their minds on certain things that they held so dear. Because as Dr. Cornel West once said, that true education begins when your worldview rests on pudding. I'm trying to make as many worldviews rest on pudding as humanly possible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a MLIS student right now at USC, University of South Carolina. I don't run. I was just meditating on this the other day. I don't necessarily run towards safe spaces. I run towards non-safe spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's going to take courage to step in these places where you're not understood and to be yourself fully. One year at CSI Day, we had like a I think I was sitting with one of the directors and stuff at the time. It was just a bunch of different people, mix of white folks, black folks, and others. And I told them this, I looked them dead in the eye. I said, for me to be my true self, I have to be a martyr. That's something that y'all don't understand. For me to be my true self, I have to put my life and everything on the line to be my true self. So when I come in as a librarian into these things, I'm not bending or backing or anything away from what I see as truth. I'm willing to stand on my truth. I'm willing to debate my truth because I'm able to articulate my truth. Now, if you come with information that makes me alter what I see as truth, that's all in well, because that's the difficult side of what democracy actually is. I just wrote this on a discussion board yesterday. I like the idea that the library are coming with the idea of EDI. But even that has to be challenged, because there's always been EDI conversation within the American system, but it never really included everybody. We see these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Really? Freedom and justice for all. You sure? And so let's see, these are all EDI conversations. So now that the library as a whole is seeming to take on this EDI stance, I said, well, we gonna see. We gonna see for real. I'm gonna test your perception of what EDI means and make sure that it really includes everybody, because unfortunately, in a lot of sense, I see EDI with an asterisk. EDI, if you already agree with the presuppositions that we already hold. EDI, if you already go along to get along with the mode of what social justice and so on and things are already are. But what about those that have opposing views with what the status quo is already saying? Are those people included? Are those people a part of the diversity? Are those people, are we trying to be equitable to those as well? Or are we trying to push those away in a sense of being inclusive? And if that is the case, we're on a slippery slope of tyranny being veneered as being inclusive. So what I bring to it is critical thinking, hard conversations. Those hard conversations, you might have to be offended. Those hard conversations, you might have to be understood. But these are the things that we will have to do to bring a truly more EDI society.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Hard conversations. We had a whole summer series about hard conversations that are difficult to have in librarianship. And I love the creative ways that you are coming up with to engage people in literacy and challenging their thought process, challenging people's beliefs in a positive way through literacy. That's amazing. I appreciate that.
Appreciate
you. Mr. Allen, same question.
Salute to brother Chris, man. That was powerful. There was nothing but them balls right there. I would say, my energy, the ability to connect with people when I'm hiring people and I'm looking at job descriptions, we don't talk about how you connect with people. You know, my job is to be the face of the Whitney community in Las Vegas. So I know I have a different skill. You know, I'm not a traditional librarian. I come to work like this, you know, because I look like the people that come in my library. But the ability to talk to people, it is a skill for people to feel welcome and for people to like you. And I don't think people understand that. We're public service. You know, when you come in my library, it's a positive experience. But my job don't stop as a librarian, as a branch manager when I leave the library. My community engagement, I'm really outside. When I'm at the grocery store or I'm at the bar, just to say, like, I talk to people. When they find out, they're like, what you do for a living? Ding, 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 ding. I got them. I tell them I'm a Black male librarian. They're intrigued. And then you never know what you uncover. I built partnerships as far as getting a mobile shower by just talking to people outside of the library. How many times we've heard libraries trying to get mobile showers? We pulled it off, but I just built relationships because I connected with people, or trying to get a social worker. These are all things I've done outside of work because I love what I do. You know, being able just to talk about what libraries do when I'm talking to parents and they're like, hold up, do people still go to libraries? I'm like, libraries are popping. You know, they don't know you get DVDs, Wi-Fi, hotspots. I got a concert hall. We do R&B concerts at my library. Like, this is what it's all about. And I feel like it's a multi-layered question because I feel like all of us do a lot of multi-layered things. You know, even with the storytelling, I do my story times. Like, I've seen librarians I've worked with in the past that were frowned upon my style. And I'm like, look, I come from hip hop. I don't do the old McDonald have a farm and all that. I do me. And to Chris's point, you talk about the EDIs and support and diversity. If it's only, I hate to say it, only but white people at the table or just one demographic, that's not supporting EDI. So I just went on a little tangent, but just I love connecting with people. And I feel like that's my biggest strength of what I bring.
And that's the biggest thing that's needed in librarianship. Is the ability to go outside the walls and create those partnerships. And being who you are in your community, you will be able to establish connections in a way that libraries have not traditionally been able to do or even wanted to do in certain types of communities. So that's very unique, and it's needed. I appreciate that. And that's the goal here too, Billy, is we asked that question because we know the multi layers that this panel has and Black male librarians across the country have, and we just want to bring that to the light. And a few things too before I get to you, Mr. Ashby, that Brittany dropped a Padlet in the chat, and we will drop it again, but we want you to be able to engage in some literature that we found. And let's just me and Harvey, for an example, trying to find peer-reviewed research on Black male librarianship. A lot of it was dated. And, you know, it's not a lot of new content. So, you know, we have a mission as well in this group to produce the literature. Instead of us trying to find it, we're going to have to write it. And that's just the bottom line. We are also finding in the literature that our numbers are dwindling. We're already a small group of people in this field, but those numbers are shrinking. So we got a lot of work to do with this Black male librarian group that's in the field now. And I'm hoping we can definitely do that through the Black male librarian Instagram account. But please engage the Padlet, look at the literature. Now, Mr. Richard, the same question. What unique approaches do you bring to librarianship?
Well, somebody put something in the chat that is just amazing that they put it, because that's what we say, that the library is a community living room. And so what I bring to my library, I bring me to my library, and I'm unique. Okay, I bring me. Before, my wife says, you know, why you go to work so early every day? Because I walk in this library and I walk around this library and I touch everything and I pray. And when people walk into this library, they walk into my atmosphere. You know, And then I look at different ways to bring something different to the library. So a couple of years ago, I'm looking at the collection. And I'm looking at the collection and development policy. And I'm saying, I said, wait a minute, you're the librarian, you're the director. How about you start putting when you go to these different libraries, because I've been to 3 libraries, how about you start looking at this collection and development policy? Now, why did I do that? Because I get people, I have a desk full of it. I have people coming to my office, coming to my library all the time, and they'll say, hi, I'm an independent author. Can you put my book into your library? And sometimes they're crying. And I said, what's going on? I went down to the library over in such and such town, and they told me that I couldn't put my book into the library because it was an independent author. And they gave me this paper, and the paper is of collection and development policy. I said, whoa, hold on, let's do this. So I make the collection and development policy. When I go for a job at any library, when I talk about coming to your library, I said, one of the things for me to be a director here is I have to see that collection and development policy, and I have to revamp that collection and development policy, which says we take independent authors and self-published authors. Now they say we take local authors. Stop playing. Local authors. You live in White Burbia, and you take a local author. Me coming there, I'm not gonna get my book in there. So that's being said, I put 750 independent authors into the library last year. Folks up in Pennsylvania is mad with me. And so then then they decided, well, you know what? We're not gonna catalog any of your books into the World Cat. That's fine. My wife and I, we purchased our own subscription to OCLC World Cat, and we're now cataloging books ourselves into the World Cat. And we have a program we started where we're now reviewing some of the subject headings into the library, because people don't realize that catalog is the biggest EDI crime in America. And so we're doing a deep dive into that. So that's what I bring into the library. I kind of look and see where people aren't moving. Where's it dark? You know, where's the skeletons at? And I find those skeletons and I rattle them. Sometimes I get in trouble, but what John Lewis say, good trouble. And so what I bring to the library is the enthusiasm. When I was a kid, 9 years old, I met Dr. King. Then I met Andrew Young. I met Julian Bond. And these are all my heroes. I'm old, folks. I just turned 68 last couple of weeks ago.
Awesome.
So I met all my heroes, and they all said the same thing: be who you want to be. And Dr. King, Julian Bond, be who you want to be. Be yourself. Be authentic. And so I'm not a traditional librarian, not at all. I didn't get here traditionally. I received my master's degree in May. I was the director of a library in June.
Wow.
I never spent one day being a librarian. I've always been a library director in the library field. And that's what I bring.
That's leadership. Yeah.
I bring encouragement. I bring love. I bring advocacy, and I bring myself.
Absolutely. That's leadership. That's outstanding. So supporting those local authors is powerful. Engaging the catalog is powerful. This segment, I appreciate all of you for sharing all the different ways you bring your unique skills and abilities to the field. Let me say real quick, because we are approaching 12 o'clock. We're going to be in here. We're not going anywhere. Because we see the questions that's coming in the chat. You have really good questions, and we want to ask those questions before we leave today. I will stop recording at 12, but we are going to continue this conversation. So just a FYI. All right, Mr. Long.
Thank you, and thank you all for sharing those unique perspectives that you all bring to the field of librarianship. It's so vital that we have different representation. And as Carlos was saying, and as the research tells us, unfortunately, our numbers are dwindling. We're losing Black male librarians in this profession. So this next question has more to do with retention, right? So how do we support Black male librarians? And I'm not only posing it to the panel, but I also want our audience members to think about ways that they're supporting Black male librarians. And if you're not, maybe think about that as well. So I think I'm going to start with Dr. Matthews on this one. How do we support Black male librarians?
I
What
would
can we
just say, support professional development, but also believe them when they tell you that they are experiencing microaggressions and that they're experiencing terrorism at their job, that they're being terrorized by their colleagues. Believe them and actually investigate it with truth. Because that's why people leave jobs. That's why people leave professions. Because you've basically been terrorized because of who you are. And I've seen it. I have experienced it a bit, you know, and it's like, okay, well, this is happening, so it's time to go. And some people just leave the field entirely because, you know, they see what's happening in the field overall. And they're like, ooh, I can deal with this. And others just move to different places. And so because our field also doesn't pay a lot of money for you to put up with that. I'm trying to take care of myself. I'm trying to take care of my family. And now I've got to go to work and be terrorized by this person over here. And no one in leadership who could do anything about it cares to do anything about it. That's disheartening. And so I think that, you know, just support them professionally, but also support them when they're telling you that something is happening. And I know we're being positive, we're talking about joy, but that's a part of maintaining that joy, you know, is getting support from your leadership. So that's great.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. So believe us, of course, also support our professional development. But when we come to you with our experiences, believe us. So thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. Ashby, how do we support Black male librarians?
The way we support Black male librarians is just a simple thank you. You know, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for serving the community. Just a simple thank you and letting us know that you see us. You know, so many times when people walk in the library and they'll say, can I speak to the director? Or sometimes in the library, what I love is that when somebody has a problem and I try to intervene and they say, well, let me speak to the director. And I look at the staff member, I say, listen, I'm gonna take a break. Have them call the director and let them send them to the director's office. And I go sit down, and when they open the door, hey, how you doing? You know, and just thank us, you know, just thank us, because we're not seen. We're Black librarians and we're in the daylight and we still can't be seen. We're not working a night shift. We here 8 o'clock in the morning for Billy, and we here in the daylight and they don't see us. Just recognize us. Just you know, give us a shout out. Hey, thank you for what you're doing. Just a simple thank you goes so far.
Wow. That's so profound. So even when we're present, we're invisible to some because we don't fit the box, or we don't fit who they think a librarian is. So thinking us is very important because this is challenging work. And someone had posed a question earlier, and maybe we'll have time for that in Q&A about how do we take care of ourselves. So we'll circle back, but part of it is people acknowledging the work that we do and saying thank you.
And really quick, Mr. Long, let me just say, for the sake of the video, thank you for attending the program today. RIMCO thanks you. The Roundtable on Ethnic and Minority Concerns, a section of the North Carolina Library Association. Please continue to look out for programs that RIMCO will be doing in the following year. Next year is the 65th annual, I believe, NCLA conference. We hope to see all of you there. But once again, thank you all for attending.